Good morning. Good to have a few minutes together today, and I'm glad you're with me. I'm going to be in 2 Samuel chapter 9 in a minute or two. I want to mention, if you weren't here Sunday to get a copy of our brochure, the game plan for your marriage, October 13, 14, and 15, our marriage conference, just working on homes, working on marriages. And we lose things that we don't take care of. Yards, houses. We've all seen a shed or a gazebo or a car just kind of slowly rotting away because no one took care of it. And that's what happens to marriages. And we need a game plan, how to take care of our home and marriage. That's a great thing. And I want to also take a minute and mention a hymn and a little bit about a man named Isaac Watts. I've mentioned his hymns in the past, but Isaac Watts, he put a lot of, he wrote so many hymns. But this hymn, "O God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, our shelter from the stormy blast, and our eternal home." Great, great hymn. "Under the shadow of thy throne, still may we dwell secure. Sufficient is thine arm alone, and our defense is sure." 5 verses here. There's more verses than that. Most people consider that maybe it's probably the most popular today. Maybe, I don't know. It is very popular still. He wrote over 600 hymns, and Isaac Watts was called the father of English hymnology. He was born in 1674 in Southampton, England, eldest of 9 children. And let me just read a couple things. His father was a very learned deacon, but he was in a dissenting congregational church. Now, the dissenters, they were people who went against the grain. They were people who took their stand on the Word of God, and there was various different groups that were dissenting. But they were people who said, this state-run church is not going to run us. We're going to be Bible-run people. And his father was a deacon in a dissenting congregational church. When Isaac Watts was very, very young, he began writing verses and rhymes early on. And it said he had an annoying habit of rhyming throughout daily conversation. One day his father scolded him, told him to stop it. And he cried out, "Oh, Father, do some pity take, and I will no more verses make." And at that point, I'd have slapped the kid. But Isaac Watts he was natural. It was a part of him. And God had a plan. Very weak physically. He was not a strong man, and he was sickly a lot. But Isaac Watts was born in a time when music in the churches was just terribly boring. And they sang the Psalms, and they sang them to a monotonous tone. And it was just in his mind and his father's mind, they needed songs that touched the heart. And so his father one day challenged him to write a new song for the congregation, something that would challenge and encourage the congregation. For the next 2 years, he wrote a new hymn every Sunday. He just was so well known for his music that touched hearts and brought this great scriptural message. He was a genius. He wrote essays on psychology, wrote volumes of sermons, catechisms, 29 treatises on theology, textbooks on logic, and other things. He died in 1748 at the age of 74 years old, and his monument, the burial place, was in Westminster Abbey, the highest honor any Englishman could have. Great music, great writer, and he wanted music with theology, music that would touch hearts, music that would encourage the congregation, and just great songs. And we don't want to lose these great old hymns. And I'm so thankful for my hymnal. In a day when churches are getting rid of hymnals, I am thankful for the hymnal. And by God's grace, we will always have a hymnal. And I'll tell you just some music philosophy here. I know a lot of churches put the words to a song on a screen. Well, I don't think that's a sin, but I want our young people and our adults, but I want people to grow up in their Christian life looking at lyrics and looking at notes. And on occasion in our church, we'll stop all the instruments and just get a piano to give the 4 main notes. get people to sing parts. And just looking at lyrics, you're not going to learn parts. And there's something about music. Remember when David was comforted, David played, Saul was comforted, he was well, the evil spirit departed from him. That was not, that was just instrumental. As far as we know, there was no vocal. The instrument, the music itself is so powerful. And so we don't want just words on a screen. I want people looking at a book, a hymnal, and seeing the notes and seeing the alto and the soprano and the tenor and the bass. And I want our young people growing up learning just basically treble clef and bass clef. And we like our young people learning instruments if at all possible. There's power in good music. And so I'm a hymnal person. I like them. I like carrying a Bible. I think we ought to carry our Bibles. When a neighbor sees you go out to the car, your phone's in your pocket, and you're in casual clothes like you'd wear to the mountains, the beach, or the grocery store, they don't know you're going to church. You put on a tie, dress nice, carry a Bible out, and the neighbors see a Bible in your hand. They know you're in your, like the old days, your Sunday go-to-meeting clothes. People knew where you were going, and people ought to know where we're going. And they ought to know that we have church and we carry Bibles and we read Bibles. We're people of the book. The Baptists have traditionally been this unique people who are Bible readers. You know, back in early American history, in the 1600s, even the preachers, they weren't supposed to just read the Bible from the pulpit. There was a common book of prayers. And I know there was always exceptions, but the general churches in the 1600s in America were Congregational, Anglican, a few other little varieties, but there was a common book of prayers, and the guys read from that, the pastors, and they read from that common book of prayers. And for you to sit at home and read a Bible and sing hymns, teach the Bible, to go soul winning, to witness to people in the street, that was not a good thing. You're going to get in big trouble. And the Baptists got into plenty of trouble. They were jailed often, especially in Virginia. It's interesting. Most of the founding fathers, many of them, were from Virginia, and that's where the biggest persecution of Bible-believing Baptists was. And I think people seeing Bible believers thrown in jail stirred the fires of freedom. And all things do work together for good. We may not like God using us, but God uses us. And we want to be people of the book. And if you're able to, carry a Bible, read a Bible. The grandkids ought to come over to the house and see a Bible out. They ought to know mom and dad read the Bible, grandpa reads the Bible, grandma reads the Bible. They ought to know that the Bible's a part of our life. And they don't always notice that if it's digital. And I use my laptop and my tablet and my phone. I bet every day I'm looking at verses on those. I'm not anti-technology. But I think it's important we have a Bible. And I don't think there's anything wrong with using all that stuff. But I want to carry a Bible to the pulpit. If a new person walks in, I want them to know I'm reading from the Word of God. I use my tablet for my notes and have found that very helpful to me. But I don't go to the pulpit. I could have all my verses in my sermon on the tablet, never carry a Bible to the pulpit. But I don't know if I've ever gone to the pulpit without a Bible. I mean, I could get somewhere, and I think I remember being out of town one time and leaving my Bible in the motel or something. And I had my sermon in my tablet, but I borrowed a Bible. I wanted a Bible there. I wanted to open it, look at it. And sometimes I've found that I put a reference in my notes that isn't right. If you've been at our church much, you've probably caught me once or twice that way. If I'm looking at my Bible, I see it. I know where verses are, and I know where I've been reading and preparing. But anyway, I wanted to read a couple of things today about counsel. You know, we get into such trouble getting bad advice. The old snake oil salesman, somebody'd bring their wagon into town, and this stuff will cure your sickness and grow hair on a bowling ball or whatever. And if you listen to the wrong advice, there's risk. Either it takes your money and does nothing for you, or it may hurt you. America jumped on the bandwagon of listening to people without facts in there that they could see and facts they could study. And this 2.5 years, not just America, but the world has bought a lie. And there are more and more studies. I may bring it up on one of these morning moments, but I think it's the presidents, a couple of the leading doctors at Johns Hopkins University have come right out and said the treatments that are being brought up, they're negative, they're not working, they're causing problems, health problems, and it's a very what happened. We just decide to listen to somebody, and we listen to the wrong somebodies. And it happens all the time. I want to read a verse or two about this. There was a man named Amnon, and Amnon was one of David's sons. I won't go into the story, but David had multiple wives and kids from each of those, and Amnon was interested in the daughter of David that was from another lady who had been a half sister. Not in our culture, you don't do those things, but this is a long time ago. But that's not the issue. The issue is that Amnon had a friend. And in 2 Samuel 13:3, but Amnon had a friend whose name was Jonadab, the son of Shimeah, David's brother. So they were cousins. And Amnon's friend, Jonadab, he gave him some advice that later cost him his life. He gave him advice that hurt Tamar, the sister, advice that ended up taking Amnon's life. And Absalom was Tamar's brother, same mother, same father. And Absalom waits and waits, plans to get together, gets the boys there, and has basically has the king's son, Amnon, assassinated. Why? Because he had wrong counsel. And it happens. It happens all the time. If you want to go back, just if you're in your Bible there, if you want to go over to page 32, verse 32, it's a sad thing when Absalom had the king's sons at this party, we would call it, and killed Amnon, and the party breaks up, when the king's son is killed, and big mess, and everybody coming, and somebody came and told David, all your boys have been killed. And it's a sad thing right there in verse 32. And Jonadab, the son of Shimeah, David's brother, answered and said, let not my lord suppose that they have slain all the young men of the king's sons, for Amnon only is dead. Amnon's friend Jonadab is still in a position of, he's close to the king. He cost Amnon. He cost Tamar. This was a breaking point in Absalom's life, and there's a lot of question marks on Absalom, but I think it was one of the turnings to wrong in Absalom's life because of one man. And yet here he is still in a position near to the king, giving advice to the king. Oh, we ought to be so careful who we listen to, who we get advice from. And if you want to go back just a few pages to chapter 10, and chapter 10 of 2 Samuel, there's a king. In chapter 10, verse 1, came to pass after this, the children of Ammon, the king of the children of Ammon died, and Hanun, his son, reigned in his stead. And David said, I'll show kindness unto Hanun, the son of Nahash, and his father showed kindness to me. And David sent to comfort him by the hand of his servants of his father. And David's servants came into the land of the children of Ammon. And that's in 2 Samuel 10. Ammon's father had been very good to David, and so in his death, David sent comforters to his boy just to say, I'm thinking about you. And he sent him a text message via the guys who carried it. And it was just gracious dealings. It's like there's the king and the Queen of England dies, and there should be words of consolation from other people of prominence around the world. It's just courtesy, and it's thoughtfulness. And that's all it was. But there in verse 3, in 2 Samuel 10, the princes of the children of Ammon said to Hanun, their lord, thinkest thou that David doth honor thy father, that he hath sent comforters to thee? Hath not David rather sent his servants unto thee to search the city, to spy it out, and to overthrow it? Wherefore Hanun took David's servants, shaved off half their beards, cut their garments off in the middle, even to their buttocks, and sent them away. A very, very shameful treatment, a horrible thing. And these servants came to comfort and to encourage, and he treated them shamefully. He shamed them, he embarrassed them, and sent them away. Oh, that did not go well. The armies of David gathered together, and then the armies of Hanan gathered together, and they hired some other people. People died. Thousands of people died. All because what? This young man who'd just taken the throne had wrong advice, wrong counselors. You know the story. I've mentioned it often. Solomon's son, Rehoboam. And Rehoboam was a young man that was going to take the throne. It was of God. It was planned by God. And he went to the older men that knew his father and said, what do you do? What do you think I should do? The people have said, if you'll lighten up a little bit here, we'll follow you like we followed your dad. And the older counselors that counseled Solomon said, if you'll serve these people, they'll serve you. And that was very good counsel. He went to his friends, the young men. He said, what do you think? They said, you're the king. Now you can control things. Tell them your little finger is going to be thicker than your father's thigh. And right then, the kingdom split, big mess. Judah to the south, Israel to the north, and people died, and a lot of suffering. Why? Because they had wrong counsel. Think about Judas. I wonder, I know Judas was the son of perdition. It was all planned and ordained. But I wonder, how did that all happen? He went to the priests, and there was a negotiation going on. If they'd have stepped back and said, oh, no, we can't do that, I don't know what would have happened. But, of course, God knew those things, and he had his foreknowledge. But we need to understand wrong advice. Proverbs 23 talks about the rich. Don't be envious of people with rich, and don't desire their dainty meats. And in verse 7 it says, eat and drink, saith he to thee, but his heart is not with thee. The guy with money is manipulating this person, drawing him in, and he's going to use him. He's going to use this guy. Wrong counsel. And so many times in our world we get bad advice. Of course, there's doctors in our day that give wrong advice. There's friends that give wrong advice. You're having a marriage problem, and you're at work, and people see you're down, and somebody, the devil has somebody come along who just lost their marriage, or they're just bad friends, and what's going on? Well, my wife and I are struggling a little bit. And, oh, you know what? That's what women are like, and they'll begin to bash her, support the guy. How could a girl not like you? How could a guy not like you? You're so nice. You're so thoughtful. Everybody at the office likes you. It must be something wrong. And wrong advice has broken up so many marriages, and wrong counselors. And we're in a day when President Trump was elected, one of the first things I began doing was praying for his counselors, because the president can't know it all. He can't touch all these areas. And so he needs to surround himself with good advisors. And most of us would agree, some of the people that said they were his advisors were not good advisors. They were not his friends. They were not helpful to his agenda. And every king, every president faces those risks, the wrong kind of friends. Over in Proverbs chapter 13, verse 20, it says, he that walketh with wise men will be wise, and a companion of fools shall be destroyed. Wrong counsel, wrong friends. In our world, in the professional world, everybody's got counselors, especially in the legal realm. You should do this to protect yourself, and do this. And it's such a deadly thing to have wrong counsel. Somebody says, well, if you'll do this in your business, you'll be able to make money, and you'll be able to do this and this. And if their goal, Proverbs says, labor not to be rich. So if your counselors, I don't care what it is in your career or your investments or whatever, and if their counsel is all about wealth and gain and money, they're probably not godly counselors. I'm not saying they're bad in the earthly sense, but we're children of the King. We march to a different beat. We have different goals. And when somebody is motivated by money, they are guaranteed to end up in the wrong place, doing the wrong things. Jesus said, you can't serve God and mammon. You can't make your decisions based on money and be near to God. You just can't do it. You're going to hate one and cleave to the other. You'll cleave to one and despise the other. What is that? It's wrong counsel. It's the advice that puts money as the thing that's most important. Oh, how careful we should be. And I'm not against advice. Anybody that knows me knows I love good counsel. I was on the phone in the last couple of days with the one who handles my car insurance and my house insurance. I've got to listen to people. I don't know enough. I've got to get advice from people. And I'm not anti-advice, but I say we better get very good advice, be very careful about our counselors. And if a counselor is all about winning and destroying the other whatever, you're the spouse in a divorce situation or the other business or whatever it might be, you don't want that kind of counsel. Jesus said, I came out to destroy life, but to save. Good advice leads you to help people. Good advice leads you to be a blessing to people. Good advice makes your life the two great commands, to love God and to love your neighbors yourself. And those ought to be the great motivators. I know people that are out of church today, many people, they used to teach Sunday school. They used to witness and pass out tracts. They used to be a help to their church. And different churches that I've been around over the years, they were a blessing to people because they got the wrong advice, because they listened to the wrong people. And by the way, sometimes it's family, like in the case of Jonadab and Amnon. Sometimes it's family. And because they got the wrong advice, today they reap what they sow, and they're out of church. They're not serving God. They're not teaching a Sunday school class. They're not witnessing. They're very casual. And good people that are dear to me, sit in some mediocre church and hear some casual, compromising message, and there's no passion for God. There's no passion for godly homes and young people going on to serve God. And you get in a church like ours, we're at the forefront of the battle, and there are people get hurt and wounded, and it's a difficult world that we're in because of our passion for service. The devil shoots his fiery darts, and one of our men, he got saved, and he was excited about the Lord. He gave up his drugs, gave up his party life, and his wife wasn't saved yet. And he came to me one day, said, Pastor, I don't know what to do. I said, what's wrong? He said, my wife told me that if I don't give up this church stuff, she's going to divorce me because she married me, a non-church going, partying, and fun man. And she said, if I don't go back to what I was before, she's leaving me. And here's a guy getting hurt in the midst of an excited Christian life. And I said, man, I can't tell you. And I don't usually tell anybody what to do. I tell them, you got to think, or I might give them some scripture or whatever. But, everybody's a free agent. You got to make your decisions. Good advice, good counselors give you things to base your decision on. They'll give you principles upon which to act. But you've got to make the call. And because when I'm not around, people still need to be making good decisions, or whoever your advisors are. But I said, you're going to have to decide. And I can see this guy now. What a great guy. And he said, I can't quit. And I said, well, I just thought, I don't know if I said it, but I know I thought it. There's no way this gal, what lady wouldn't like her husband to be sober and loving and caring and a church-going guy? There's no way a girl's going to divorce a guy because he's got saved and quit using drugs, liquor, and he's going to church. She did. She divorced him. And it was terrible, and his heart broke, and he never remarried. And he lost his son for a little while, but eventually got custody of his son. And because that world of drugs and liquor and partying, it's not good for family and parenting and all that stuff. And pretty soon he got his son, and his son grew up here, and he spent the next years, many, many years in our church, and he died prematurely. But what a gracious Christian man, and what a pleasure to see him. And he was wounded in the house of his in his own home. this Christian life, the devil's out to ruin people, because if you want to live an old casual life and live like the world, act like the world, drink like the world, go to the world's places, you'll probably not be beat up quite as much as those who get on the front lines and battle for Jesus. And there are battles. But how honored I was to be able to spend the next almost 2 decades beside this man who said, I'm going to pay the price and do the right thing. And at his funeral, his son was so proud of his dad. And a good young man going to a good church in another city. He had moved out of our area after he got married, either right before or after he got married. But good advice, and be very, very careful. Wrong advice can destroy your marriage. Wrong advice can ruin your Christian life, even if it makes you rich. And what a careful thing. Psalms 1, I'll just close with this. Psalms 1, blessed is the man that walks not in the counsel of the ungodly. Don't get your advice from ungodly people. Don't walk in the counsel of the ungodly. Don't stand in the way of sinners. Don't sit in the seat of the scornful, but his delights in the law of the Lord. Oh, may we be very careful who we get our advice from, and may we seek after the will of God for our lives. Hope you have a great day. Of course, our Bible study this afternoon, 3:30, and tonight at 7. Join us and pray, would you? I talked about it Sunday night. Pray. Take time to pray. Make sure you're praying for your country, for your state, for your church, for your family. Pray for those Christian brethren that God puts in your heart. Create a prayer list, and let's be people of prayer. Have a great day.